of an upcoming WikiLeaks documents release. A U.S. security company called HB Gary came up with a plan to post some fake documents on WikiLeaks, then expose them as fakes in order to discredit the site. It pitched that idea to one of the Bank of America's law firms. HB Gary hooked up with a tech company called Palantir Technologies. And there's a revealing trail of emails between the two, one of which suggests that journalists like Glenn Greenwald of Salon.com needed to be attacked, and that without the support of people like Greenwald, WikiLeaks would fold. The emails were obtained by Anonymous, the online militants who first came to WikiLeaks' defense when Amazon, MasterCard, and other firms cut their ties with the organization. It was a happy ending seen by hundreds of millions of people all around the world, but a new book claims that things weren't always as they appeared for those 33 trapped Chilean miners. Jonathan Franklin, a journalist, has written a new book about the story and the rescue operation. He recently appeared on CBS's 60 Minutes. In his book, Franklin writes that on October 12th, the day the first miners were lifted to the surface, Chilean authorities interrupted the live television feed to perform emergency repairs on the rescue capsule after some hairy moments caused by damage from falling rocks. However, the breathless global media were none the wiser because the live news feed was switched to earlier clips of the rescue. Franklin, in his interview with 60 Minutes, said that during those first 17 days before contact was made with the miners, many of the miners had started thinking about suicide or cannibalism.
He told me that they had a pot and a saw ready.
Franklin also revealed that drugs, primarily marijuana, were smuggled to some of the miners in letters from their families. So if a few of those miners' memoirs seem a little vague and short on detail, that's probably why. The David and Goliath story is a popular fable and a theme that many a documentary maker has worked into their films. A couple of recent examples of that, documentaries that have chronicled legal battles between U.S.-based multinational corporations Dole and Chevron and the citizens of the Latin American countries in which they do business. Big business. But what happens when the people behind the camera find themselves in their very own David and Goliath story over the film they've made? That's what happened to Frederick Gertten and Joe Berlinger, who have fought lengthy and expensive legal cases for the right to protect their finished films from censorship and their raw footage from being exploited in courts of law. The documentary makers learned firsthand the lengths that some corporations will go to avoid bad PR. The Listening Post's Jason Mojica now on corporate America versus documentary filmmakers and the courtroom arguments over freedom of speech that could affect journalists everywhere.
When documentary filmmakers take on a new project, they know that they're embarking on a journey that may consume years of their life, immersing themselves in the lives of others in hopes of revealing something that would otherwise go unseen.
Y yo no voy a abandonar esta gran injusticia que ha hecho estas gigantescas multinacionales. Yo estoy muy orgulloso de pelear por ustedes. Unidos. Exactamente.
At their best, documentary films can transform complex socio-political issues into complex narrative stories. Stories about people.
Es un abogado corrupto de Texaco.
Señor, usted va a responder por sus palabras.
Yo estoy respondiendo, señor. Usted es un abogado corrupto.
With less money for newspapers, with newspapers folding, with magazines folding and everything that's happening, it's difficult for good investigative journalism to take place. We're seeing a lot of it now in documentary filmmaking.
These big corporations never expected this to happen. They thought they could get away with it, like they always have. So if we are successful in this case, we will have created the precedent for other workers to sue in the United States and vindicate their rights.
But when the subject of those films is the behavior of multinational corporations, a filmmaker's independence can become a liability. Swedish director Frederick Gertten learned that the hard way when he made Bananas, a film that followed the case of 12 Nicaraguan banana workers who claimed to have been made sterile by Dole's use of a pesticide called DBCP.
When we launched our website and told the world that we were coming with this film, it took like 3 days and we received a really long cease and desist letter from Dole Food Company, telling us to shut down the film, shut down the website. From the very first minute, you get a letter from a big corporation. The first minute, your you're starting to lose money you don't have.
That's something that American filmmaker Joe Berlinger knows all too well. His film, Crude, tells the story of another legal battle. This one involving an indigenous community in Ecuador suing for the environmental damage caused by years of oil operations in the Amazon. He spent close to $1 million defending himself against Chevron, which wanted access to the hundreds of hours of raw footage used to make his film.
The case that Chevron has brought against Joe Berlinger and against the film is essentially a fishing expedition. They wanted all the notes, they wanted all the footage, they wanted all the emails, they want everything. I mean, a filmmaker's outtakes, the footage that he or she doesn't use, are just the same as a reporter's notes and should be as protected.
That's not the way a Manhattan court saw it when it ordered Berlinger to surrender 500 hours of his footage in January. A Chevron spokesperson was quoted as saying that a version of Crude that was streamed online, quote, documents improper conduct by the trial lawyers behind the Ecuador lawsuit. It is highly likely that additional misconduct is captured on the outtakes. Chevron created a YouTube channel to showcase a selection of the footage they obtained.
¿Alguien puede subpoena estos videos? I just want you to know that it's illegal to conspire to break the law.
Steven Donziger came to my office in the summer of 2005. He's the American attorney kind of running this case. And he started telling me about the story, hoping to interest me in making a documentary, and all of my red flags were going off.
It set off red flags for the court as well. It ruled that Berlinger could not claim journalist privilege because the film had been solicited by Donziger, and changes had been made to the film at Donziger's request. Berlinger, the court said, failed to show that he collected information for independent reporting and commentary.
Steven and I had some very intense conversations at the start of the project. I said, you would not have any right of approval or looking at my footage. This is going to be my interpretation of what I'm witnessing.
This is not like Joe Berlinger is going out and deliberately making a film that's totally one-sided. This is a case where he has listened to all the sides, where he has weighed the evidence, and he's made his film.
The fact we're in the game is a huge victory. You know, the fact we're having a trial is a miracle. It's historic.
Like Crude, Bananas features a lawyer with a big personality in the film's starring role. And like Berlinger, Gerton denies that he was beholden to his main character, Juan Accidentes Dominguez.
If he's going to have a loud motor and going to be a Ferrari, it's got to be red. You know, it'd be a crime. Spend that much money and not get the red one.
I didn't do this film in solidarity of a plaintiff lawyer. I consider myself as a filmmaker, not an activist. I want to tell good stories. And this is a really good story.
Apparently, Dole disagreed as they sued the filmmaker for defamation, citing the fact that the verdict celebrated in the film was later overturned, and lawyer Juan Dominguez was accused of fabricating evidence, both facts that Gerton acknowledged at the end of the film. Dole's defamation complaint stated that Gerton and the other defendants, quote, ignored the truth and screened this blatantly false film. There can be no clearer case of libel and slander